Hey, welcome to Sunday Conversations. This is episode 5. Today, I'm talking with Tommy Harte from Broken Vow. He is going to be a very special guest because this week we have Broken Vow's first or official debut EP out this Friday. So it's kind of like a perfect time to chat with Tommy about music, Broken Vow, skating, veganism, and straight edge. So Tommy, can you give a quick backstory about who you are, what you do and how you got into hardcore?
Yeah. Well, I'm Tommy. Said my name a few times, but in case you missed it, I'm 19 years old. I'm from Northampton, Massachusetts, and I've been into hardcore, I'd say seriously, for about 2 years, but I was listening to it for a couple of years before then. But around 2 years ago is the summer where I really started going to a ton of shows and meeting people through hardcore and seeking it out in a way that I hadn't before. So I kind of got into it right 6 or 8 months before the pandemic. And then during the pandemic, obviously hardcore is only on the internet. So I kind of met a ton of people that way. And now that things are kind of starting to happen in real life again, it's been this very disjointed relationship with hardcore that I've had so far, where it's I'm going to shows that are exciting and I'm developing a taste. And then I just totally am locked off from the world and in a bubble where I can form everything without anybody else's influence. And then I'm back in that, going to shows all the time, putting myself out there all the time, and very much being involved in a community less than pursuing an interest on my own.
Yeah. Do you feel now you are more immersed in hardcore in the shows and community versus when you first started as, the 6 to 8 months ago before the pandemic?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because I had that awkward, I'm first going to shows and I don't know how to talk to people and I don't know what's going on and I barely know any of these bands. And then as soon as I was kind of starting to break away from that and going to shows where I was oh, I've listened to these bands, I know what's up. I know the social cues of hardcore or whatever. And then just immediately nothing. And I just kind of had to sit with myself and not having that community anymore. So
yeah, I think that's a very interesting time as well. Because based on the internet, I know a lot of people discovered hardcore music through the pandemic. I know the TikTok hardcore thing was kind of a thing for a bit, where a lot of people got introduced to it, which is really cool. Yeah, it doesn't matter how you find music and stuff, but it's I guess it's a newer thing that hasn't happened before. And yeah, it's throughout the pandemic, did you find yourself kind of learning a little bit more about hardcore or specific bands? For example, I give myself I dove deep into catalogs and would listen to a bunch of I would go through a Discord catalog and then Revelation, find XY band and listen to all the bands that they had, and just kind of a fun thing to do when you have time to yourself. Did you find yourself doing that at all, or learning more about the music versus what you had known before?
Yeah, I don't think I did it as deep or methodically as that, but I think just by nature of being really bored and having this still sort of newfound passion for something, I was very much so okay, here's these bands that I like right now, or these bands that are popping off right now. And I kind of tried to trace the line back and be where did these bands get that from? Or where did this sound come from initially? But I didn't do too many huge discography dives.
Yeah.
I think right a month into COVID, I did an Earth Crisis discography dive. A bit of a discouraging discography dive to do because there's a harsh cutoff in quality, in my opinion. But and I think that kind of put me off of it a little bit. But I think it was more so trying to fill in the gaps with different bands and their most important material. So instead of like, I'm going to listen to everything by this band, it's like, I'm going to listen to something by this band. And then it leads me to this other band that's also really cool. And then it was less like deep dives on one thing or one area and more just like filling out my like family tree of hardcore.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, when we first started talking, I remember like you already had like a pretty decent knowledge about like, you know, these obscure bands from the 90s. So it's kind of, that's why I like asked that, because I was like, well, he already knows like a lot. Like, I wonder if he like did like a bigger deep dive and like learned a bunch of stuff. But no, it seems like you've done it in a more organic way. Like you mentioned, like bands related to this band and so on. But yeah, that's so cool.
I think just like in like the way that I consume music, it's like I can listen to a ton of albums in a row, but I've like got to switch it up. You know what I mean? So like if I listen to all of Destroy the Machines, I can't then go and listen to all of Gomorrah's Season Ends, but like I could listen to all of like Here and Now by Strain. So
yeah.
And it, for sure, if there's one like area where I know a lot of like little obscure bands that I think are like so sick, it's for sure the 90s. So
yeah. And like when Broken Vow started, I know you all originally formed in Connecticut, but you mentioned you grew up in Massachusetts. So wanted to ask like how that scene was growing up. It doesn't have to be specifically in hardcore. I know everyone comes from like, usually it's like pop punk, metalcore. Hardcore is kind of like the usual path, but how was that for you, like growing up in music in Massachusetts?
Well, the thing is, like, it's not even that like there wasn't a hardcore scene, but there was one of those other scenes. It's like I was like in my hometown and like the surrounding towns, at least, like it was me. So like I knew some people who were older, like a lot older than me, who were into like hardcore and metal and punk and stuff like that, but all of my peers, I kind of had to like convince them to start like heavier bands with me or like start bands with screaming in it like with me. And it was very like, there was nobody. And that's kind of why I ended up like all the shows I went to were in like Worcester or Boston or Hartford or New Haven. And so I kind of got like, I'm from this very like bubble pocket of Western Mass, and it's my city is like the biggest within like the whole county and like the surrounding counties apart from like Springfield, and it's like 30,000 people. It's like a tiny college town. So it's all like indie rock and like post punk and stuff like that, which is cool. And like I got to see a lot of really cool bands which are doing awesome things now, but I always wanted like the more intense stuff, and people kind of like turned their noses up at that and like didn't take it seriously. So I had to go somewhere else for it. And that's, you know, why I was at a show in Hartford where I met the other members of Broken Vow, or like why I was like, oh yeah, like I'll go to like Worcester, like an hour and a half away for the Have Heart shows when I'm like 17 and like don't have a driver's license. Like I can do that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it was definitely, it shaped it into this thing where like hardcore and metalcore and pop punk, which are all genres that I love. Surprisingly enough, you can like all of them at the same time, but they symbolize like leaving and like going somewhere else. And it kind of made me romanticize that whole, like, I'm going to like start here and go and like be somewhere that's not where I'm from. So,
yeah. I guess what, do you remember like what sparked your interest and finding your own music? Because, for example, you mentioned that you weren't hearing exactly what you're looking for, and it was more like the indie rock scene. Like, did you, did you find like a band early on or something that kind of sparked your interest in like a heavier music?
Well, I mean, I think it was like, it feels weird to say heavy, but like when I was in like 6th or 7th grade, I got like crazy into Blink-182. Yeah. And then obviously like all the pop punk bands that come with that. And then I remember that Sum 41 album, Chuck, there's like some like heavy parts on like heavy parts and some screaming. And I was like, I really like this. And, and then I kind of got interested in like metal as like an abstract idea. And then 2 bands that like really like hit with me very early on were Killswitch Engage, who I talk about to no end, so I'll leave it at that. And a band called Queensryche, who are from the 80s, and they had this like concept album called Operation Mindcrime that I just loved, and I would listen to over and over and over and over again and think like, wow, this is like so epic and cool and edgy. I don't know, it made me feel very like, it made me feel different because like obviously I was like looking for something different, and then when I found it, I was like this is like where I belong in a sense, you know what I mean?
Queensryche, is their singer like, do they sing like very high pitch and like very like epic? Okay, I know who you're talking about. I think my dad used to play them quite a bit, but I remember hearing that. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool.
It was as like a 7th grader, I was like nobody's doing it like me, like no one's listening like I am, like so. And of course, my parents were like super. My dad has a lot of like older like 70s and 80s punk influences, so he was playing with the Sex Pistols when I was like way too young to be called anything about the Sex Pistols. You know what I mean? So shout out to him for sure.
So we'll get more into like the music stuff in a bit, but I wanted to focus more right now on like you as a person growing up, in Massachusetts, discovering what the music that you like and stuff. But there's 2 other aspects that I'm also interested in. One being veganism, because I've seen you post like, and the Sunday Drive Discord, like a couple of like vegan meals and like stuff like that. So being vegan myself, I feel like we relate on this, and I wanted to ask, how long have you been vegan, and like what inspired you to become vegan?
A year and a couple months. I think right around I claimed Edge and like fully was like, okay, I'm vegan on like the same day, but both of them were like very like slow processes that I was very deliberate about. But with being vegan specifically, I've always been like interested in it from a young age. And I tried to I wanted to go vegan when I was like in 6th grade. And then the people around me were just like, why would and they just like, they were just like, that's so stupid. And like, not to say that was like, my parents were like, okay, but like, just like peers and like my friends' parents in school were like that's so weird, you know what I mean? And I like almost got bullied out of it. And then I over COVID, I was like, well, this is something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And I was also being exposed to these vegan bands and vegan people in the hardcore scene. And it was for sure very intertwined with hardcore, but I think it speaks to the more common theme that like hardcore hasn't like changed me as a person. It's just like allowed me to be who I like aspired to be. Cause like I had that desire for a very long time. And then I was like, oh, this is like cool. And there's like a group of people who will like think I'm very cool for wanting to do this. You know what I mean? And I guess as like a still young, impressionable man, like that's big, to have like an avenue where like you can do something that you want to do and something that's productive and something that's positive. And I just like kind of started going there like little by little. And then when I went to college, I said like, when I go to college, like I'm going to go vegan. And luckily like the dining hall was super accommodating of me. Like having control over what I was eating was like super huge for me and like was really freeing. And I just haven't looked back, and it's been like a year and some change, I think. So
cool.
Super awesome. But that Sunday Drive like vegan food section or that's cool. I forget I have Discord on my phone a lot, but like I'm gonna like go through after this and like look at whatever.
We just made some vegan enchiladas the other day that are really good. But I'm always like looking for new recipes and like finding YouTubers as like get inspiration from and stuff. So
the avant-garde vegan.
Uh-huh.
That guy's crazy because he's like, I don't know, like if I like saw a guy like that walking down the street, I would be like, oh, like he probably doesn't even know what like being vegan is.
Right.
Like, he's so cool. I don't even like watch his videos for the food. Just like his personality is so captivating.
Yeah, he's super interesting. And like his like video editing is really cool too. And I mean, he's like a professional chef, so like the meals that he makes are like super like intricate and like I wish I could have some.
I wish I could just be like I wish I could be one of those people who like gives it to after the thing. And they're like, oh, this is great. I know those guys aren't vegan. No way. Like, I actually bought like one of his cookbooks when it came out a while ago. And I've only made like 1 or 2 recipes, but like that cookbook is like super specific and like the ingredients that they use, because it's usually not like, things that you have in your house. So if you're feeling like special, like when like a special dish, like you can go out to the store and like get some, specific ingredients. There's nothing I love more than like going to the store and like getting a recipe from somebody and like going to the store and like, what did they say I needed to get? What is that? Like, I remember I found out that tamari and soy sauce are the same thing, which is definitely just like my insane food ignorance. But I was like, oh my God. Like, and just like making those connections and stuff and getting to like make new stuff that tastes good is like, so
that's a good point. That's one of the things I love most about when I went vegan, is like kind of opens the door to like this whole new world of like foods that you never even thought of or like tried.
Like, I mean, I probably, if I'd kept just like eating McDonald's all the time, I never would have had like tempeh. And now that's like what I'll just like fry tempeh and like put salt and pepper on it. I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever had in my whole life.
Or even like something as simple as like tofu. Like that's just something that you don't usually eat when you're eating, a standard like American diet.
For real.
But there's like so many like foods that come from the earth, which is like so cool to like, discover and explore and try a bunch of new flavors. It's really exciting. I really like the lifestyle of being
vegan.
3 years, I think.
3 years.
It was last year of college when I realized that I was not eating good.
That's the other really realization is I was like, oh man, like if I keep eating like this, it is not like my metabolism is only going to carry me. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very harsh cutoff for me of like going from like eating a ton of like fast food and like really junky stuff to being like, okay, I got to stop eating meat. Like that was a huge thing for me. You know what I mean? So
yeah, same here. I kind of like did it overnight, which I probably should have done it more gradual so your body can adjust a little bit better. But I was just eating like a bunch of fast food, and I feel like the not having like a restriction as far as like vegetarian or vegan in college specifically, because they have like you mentioned, the diner halls. I'm sure they're a lot better now, but at the time, like there wasn't much that you can eat. Like I would eat like Chick-fil-A and like pizza every day. It was like super bad.
Very, very like, I don't know, like waking up and like feeling heavy, you know what I mean? And, oh my God, like what's going on? But I remember my college had, I don't go there anymore, but they had like a whole vegan section where like everything every day, like every meal was vegan.
Oh, cool.
Like, and then every other section had like one vegan option. So
no, that's really cool. It's cool also to see how far it's come just in like the past 5 years, even.
Literally,
I know like it's been like evolving, through the decades, but like I feel like it has exponentially grown like in the past few years, which is awesome to see. I
ever.
Yeah, I know. And I fully understand like people don't understand it or don't want to go vegan. It's just kind of hard to have the perspective if you have never tried it. I never thought that I would when I was like a kid either. I had like some interest like in high school where I was like, oh, maybe I can go vegetarian. But I just, you started learning more about the environment and animals and health, and you know, they all just kind of
they like coalesce, and you're like, oh,
but it's cool. Like once you discover it, like it all connects like very easily.
And you have that like aha moment where you're like, oh, like I need to do this. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it's not a sense of like being forced. It's like a sense of like fulfilling like an obligation that you, you know what I mean? That it's not like, like, oh, I have to do this. It's like, wow, like I'm compelled to do this. It's for really, you know, I'm a very like lethargic person sometimes. And I'm like, oh, like, I don't want to do this. And like, I don't want to do this unless I like feel strongly about it, or unless I love this, or just made my life really much harder than it needs to. But like, I think with veganism, it was just like, oh, like, I'm like, for like, in my mind, I was like, now that I've connected these dots, like I have to, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. And I want to ask the same thing about straight edge, because you mentioned it kind of happened simultaneously. But like, how'd you come across straight edge, and what made you, you know, want to live drug free?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I came across straight edge through hardcore, because like I'm in hardcore and I'm straight edge. So like, how else would I come across it? But I think there was like an aha moment when I like heard Have Heart for the first time. And I was like, this is me. And like, he's talking about me, and he's talking to me like right now. And then there was like 2 or 3 years before I even like seriously entertained the thought of being straight edge, because I first listened to Songs to Scream at the Sun in like 2017. And then I didn't claim edge until 2020, just like variety of reasons that like, little too personal for me to get into, but but it was very much like you know, I like want to live apart from this thing that like so much defines the culture that I live in, and especially the culture I grew up in, because I grew up around a ton of townies, you know what I mean? And a ton of people who are like, oh, like the only thing I ever do is like get really fucked up and like get really high and get really drunk and just kind of do whatever happens next. You know what I mean? And it's this very kind of like, I identified it early on as like this very kind of like monotonous, repetitive, like boring and kind of sad way to live, like for me at least. And I mean, you know, people find joy from that, and that's cool, but it just always bummed me out, even when I was like actively hanging out in those circles. And I think as soon as I kind of had the time, like over the pandemic, to like sit with myself and be like, what am I about? And like that kind of essential part of like growing up and like turning from like a kid into like a fully grown person is like, what's like the disconnect between like me and the things and people that surround me, and what makes me me and what makes them them, and like what do I have to do to prove that? You know what I mean? And I think straight edge was really important for me, and being like, I've never been interested in this, but I've kind of been roped along with it a little bit. And why should I do that? Like, what's the point? So I'm just not going to anymore. And it's definitely a sense of like overcoming something for sure, but it's also a sense of like defining like who you are against the world, which is like feels like very like righteous and like I'm straight edge and you're not, and like I'm so much, but it's just it's a personal thing in that it's a personal definition. And I'm kind of losing my train of thought, but I hope it's coming across.
I know what you mean. I've had like similar like struggles understanding if I resonate it with enough with like being straight edge, because I sometimes like I can see straight edge as being like almost a negative, like kind of looking down, like you mentioned, like, oh, you're not straight edge. Like, I really didn't like that aspect of it. But I started thinking of it in more in a positive way, as far as like doing it for yourself and wanting to, abstain from, XYZ, in this case being drugs, but and alcohol. But very early on, I had like no interest in it at all. I think it was just like the way I grew up, like it never appealed to me. So like I never had done anything. And I guess I just didn't know what straight edge was until, you discover it and you're like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. No, I had the much more complicated way of like being like interested in it because of like social pressure, being interested in like using substances and like partaking and then being like, but it doesn't feel like me, you know what I mean? And then it like an expectation builds when you partake. It's like, oh, are you going to do that again? Like, you're going to do that? Are you coming with us to do that? You know what I mean? And it's just this, it's this pressure that like is so much more fun to live without. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and very much more to just like draw a line in the sand and be like, I'm all set. You know what I mean? So, and I think to what you were saying about like doing straight edge for yourself, like that's a big difference that I obviously like vegan straight edge is like a thing, and that's like a thing that I buy into very much. But like, I think straight edge is much more like I'm straight edge for like no reason other than me. You know what I mean? And because I want to be and not because I want, you or anybody else to be straight edge, just that's how I am. And I'm proud of that. And I'm stoked about that every day, but it's like, it's a very like calm thing for me. Whereas
for sure.
Where I'm more like, this is like something I do to like go beyond myself. And like, it's this like balance between like deeply like personal reflection and deeply like outer reflection and being like, what can I do that then impacts animal welfare, the environment, and then also my health. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Very much more so like a bigger picture world thing. So
yeah, exactly. No, yeah, you said it perfectly. I think like wrapping up those two aspects of our lives, and it's also
when you signed Broken Vow, like I had no idea you were vegan straight edge, and I was like and then we all like found that out at the same time and we were like, yo, that's so cool, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. Like it's fun discovering when people have like similar lifestyles as you. It's very like super easygoing when you're with other friends that are also like vegan and straight edge, because like one, you don't have to worry about like alcohol or like whatever substances, and like two, you don't have to worry about like, oh, maybe we can go to this place because they have other options besides just vegan stuff.
I guess like my inner circle within hardcore is like 5 dudes from New England who are like all vegan and straight edge. And it's just we're like starting a band right now that's playing our first show at the Broken Vow release show, and we like got together to practice yesterday. I just kind of remember thinking like none of us have to like say like, oh, can we like make sure that this place like has something that I can eat? We're like, oh, let's go somewhere that has a ton of vegan stuff for all of us. You know what I mean? So, really, it's cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's just like easygoing. Of course, I love my friends that are not vegan and straight edge. I always make accommodations for whatever. I'm usually the person like, yeah, let's just go wherever. I'll just get whatever I can. In those cases,
that's my thing. Is it's like most places you can like most places I can make do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's usually like not like your first option. I guess like your first option would be like the vegan junk food like local spot that you want to go to.
Like, let's go to the place where I can have everything.
But similar to those like aspects of your life, I also saw that you skated or maybe still skate, but I wanted to ask you about that, how skating has played a part of growing up, and if you think that the skate culture has like impacted your lifestyle today.
I mean, for sure. It was a huge thing for me when I was like, especially 16, 15, like right around the time when I like did that thing that everyone does at that age where you're like, oh, like, what am I into? not like none of like the big like adult questions of like, who am I? Like, what do I stand for? Like,
Yeah.
what do I like? And skating made sense with everything else I liked, because I was really into, like pop punk and metal. And I think around the time I started skating, I also started listening to Suicidal Tendencies, who were like a huge band for me to like get me into hardcore and like more like aggressive raw stuff. Mm-hmm. And they have this big like skate image around them. So I was like, I'm going to go listen to like Institutionalized and like try to learn how to do an ollie. You know what I mean? And I quickly met like a ton of people who were like super kind and, nice and accommodating of me. And I think the skate culture in Western Massachusetts is actually really cool. And I think it kind of helped me to have that in lieu of like a music scene, because, instead of like going to shows, I just go to the skate park. And I was never like crazy good at it or anything. And I kind of have more of a casual relationship to it now that I'm like more like 100% focused on music and like have a community within music. And I occupy myself with music the same way that I kind of occupied myself with skateboarding a lot. But yeah, there was a lot of like really positive formative memories where like either me like going and like skating on my own and like really busting my ass trying to like learn something new, or like me like hanging out with a ton of people. And especially like over the course of the pandemic, like doing it alone or like going to like, more empty parks was like that got me through for sure. So yeah, skating was huge for me, but like not huge like the way that like hardcore was. It was never that like aha moment that like getting into hardcore was. It was more of like this is really nice and I like this a lot. So
yeah, just kind of like a fun thing to do your time. Yeah, definitely. For Broken Vow, I know you all met at a Magnitude show.
Yes, we did.
Was this like 2 years ago now? 2019 or 2020? Early 2020.
Coming up on 2 years. March the 6th.
Oh,
2020.
Wow.
So
okay, yeah. So right before.
I think I remember the date.
Yeah. But yeah, how important is a band like Magnitude to you, and like your generation? Because I feel like it has made like a pretty big they have made a pretty big impact on the youth right now.
I mean, I don't want to like blow up my spot, because like I do, I know those guys and I'd consider them friends, and I'd I obviously I got the chance to play with them recently, but like that band is like, at least personally, like speaking for myself, just unfathomable impact on my life. You know what I mean? Like they're one of the bands that like convinced me that like straight edge was like a positive thing to do for myself. You know what I mean? So like I first felt talked to by some older bands like Foundation or Have Heart or Verse. But it was Magnitude that was like, oh, this isn't like speaking to me from the past. This is like speaking to me right now. And it's topical to what I'm going through and like what I see in the world around me. And I don't think I would have like made the choices that I've made in regards to especially straight edge if it wasn't for that band. And generationally, I know there are so many people who feel the same way as I do. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, the Spotify Wrapped just came out, and like, even though that band hasn't dropped an LP in like 2 years at this point, it's like, they were on the top of mine, and they were on the top of Harrison's, and they were like, they were all over other people's. And it's really cool, like what a lasting impact a band like that has, because they deserve to. And lyrically, I think it's some of the most compelling straight edge music ever. You know what I mean? So I think they really like tie it up real nice with a bow and say like, this is what this means. And I'm like, wow, yes, exactly. Like I have nothing to add. So that's, I'm not going to like try any harder to describe it, because I'd push this into the 2-hour territory. But like, I'd suffice it to say, like, no words can like, in my mind, do justice to like that band's impact on me or the hardcore in my generation. So
Yeah, you also mentioned having the chance to play with them. This is just like a week ago or so. But yeah, how was that? Like, how was that experience for you?
I mean, obviously, like I've just kind of like everyone and their mom knows I love Magnitude, but like I just did a whole like bleeding heart thing about them. So like obviously it meant the world to me to like go up there and like play those songs that, you know, have had such a big impact on me. And it was a great show as well. So I thought I did about as well as I could for as much practice as we had. And it seemed like everyone in the audience had a great time. So that's all I can ask for as a performer and as a musician. So
that show, or if anyone doesn't know, that this is the One Step Closer release show. It was Broken Vow, One Step Closer, Magnitude, Inclination, Life's Question,
Slow Fire Pistol,
and one band got added. Two bands to a split set. Two bands
did like a split set right at the beginning. I think they're both from New Jersey, but I could be messing that up. It was Cut Down and Never Again, and we got to talk to those guys at their merch table was right next to ours. So super great dudes. They played a great set. So I was stoked that like more bands got added to it because it kind of had this big like party festival feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's kind of like a mini fest of like a lot of really good bands. So shout out to One Step Closer for putting that together themselves.
I mean, but no, that was such like. I remember like calling my parents after it and being like, wow, like this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I had to take a lot of moments, like reflect during that day about like how lucky I am to like have the friends I have and like be involved in what I'm involved in and have the opportunities I have to like perform and like share my art with people on this like bigger scale, even if, you know, we're not the headlining band. So
and like, especially being in, I'm not sure if it was specifically in Wilkes-Barre or just like a little bit outside, but it's like in general, general Wilkes-Barre area, northeastern Pennsylvania. How is it playing in that area, being such like a landmark in hardcore?
I mean, I was obviously like, I remember one time, like me and the people I was hanging out with, we just kind of sat down and like listed like every hardcore band we know from Wilkes-Barre. And then like, it was a while before we even got into like super obscure bands. We were like I remember we were like struggling to think, and it's like Frostbite. And it's like, oh, that band rocks. And like a ton of people love that band. And the kind of like hardcore pedigree in a city like that is like tangible when you're a hardcore kid, but it's cool that like people like just walking around just like normal people from Wilkes-Barre are just like, I think I heard of that Title Fight band once. Like they're I don't know, I never listened, you know, but like but it's like it's really cool being in a place that has such a large significance to such a small group of people. So, you know, it's not like a giant culture. It's not like going to the Eiffel Tower and everyone's like, oh my God, there's the Eiffel Tower. It's like, you know, most people who pass by the Hyperview mural are like, what's that? You know what I mean? So,
and based off of like Title Fight's lyrics, it seems like a very mundane place to like live and like experience. So like, I'm sure it's not like, you know, a landmark or in that way, but as like, I guess in our community, like we kind of understand the impact of that area and like how many great bands have come from there. And you always hear stories and, you know, everything. So
I was talking to Evan, the guitarist from Broken Vow, about this. And he said like, that's what makes hardcore so cool, is that like a city like Wilkes-Barre can have like a better hardcore scene than like Los Angeles at any given moment. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not based off of like, you know, the typical avenues that like the entertainment industry goes down. And it's like, if you write a ton of great songs about how mundane your hometown is, like you could be the biggest band in hardcore. You know what I mean? So, and it was my first time in Wilkes-Barre, and I was struck by just like how much it reminded me of where I'm from in Massachusetts, where it was I know Wilkes-Barre has like that whole part of Pennsylvania has like a coal mining history and like just like an industrial history generally. And it's the same for Western Mass. Like I drove to pick up a pizza right before this, and just everything that I passed by on the way there is blown out factories and like crumbling smokestacks and stuff like that. And there's a lot of the same kind of vibe and energy in Wilkes-Barre. And I was like, this is like desolate and like mundane in the same way that like where I come from is desolate and mundane. Like,
yeah. But yeah, you also recently finished filling in on tour with Anxious. How was that? Was that your first real tour for you?
I guess I'd done like a smaller run with them with Wicca Phase, and it was like I think there were only like 3 dates that were actually like consecutive, and it was very like broken up. And that was my first taste of like, oh, we're doing a show and we've got a show tomorrow and a show the next day. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was my first like, we're gonna start in Washington D.C. and we're gonna get to Texas, and then, you know what I mean? So like, it was my first like big tour experience. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that I'm like just a fill-in in Anxious, and like I'm sure if Broken Vow did a tour of that size, it would be like a wildly different experience.
But for sure.
I'm just like hanging out with them and like just talking and like doing my thing and hanging out, and like they're dealing with like the business side of things, and that's more my role in Broken Vow. Whereas in Anxious is just, you know, I'm just there to just play my guitar, show up and do my thing. So, which is cool. And, you know, I'm no less stoked that they give me that opportunity because I can't handle the business side of it. But, I'm doing a bigger run with those guys. The Knuckle Puck tour that just got announced today, actually. That's going to be my introduction to like, like more serious long tours. So I'm very nervous, but I'm very, very excited for that one. So that should
be fun.
It's gonna be really dope.
Yeah. And I mean, you're also going to be touring with Broken Vow that just got announced recently. So Broken Vow is going out on the East Coast with Ticket to Harte. But I was going to ask, like, are you a little bit glad that you have this like past tour experience now that maybe you know the ropes a little bit better, you know, that going into the first Broken Vow tour?
Yeah. And I mean, it was very much like, I mean, Evan and I sat down and like booked this whole tour, like with help from everybody else, of course, but we were the main like driving forces behind getting it booked. And it's my first experience doing anything like that. And like, I'm so thankful to all the people who I like reached out to, and they're like, yeah, like, let me help you with this. You know what I mean? And it's like this crazy large learning experience. And then I also have to show up and play, you know what I mean? So it's like a much more like, well-rounded experience than I think touring with Anxious is, you know?
Yeah.
For what it's worth. But I'm very glad I had that experience of like what it's like the reality of touring is on the ground, so that I'm not like, I don't know. It's easy to like, when you don't know what the reality of touring is like, to get carried away with like fancy of it and like your idea of it.
Yeah.
And I think it was very important for me to be like, yo, like, let's do this date, this day, so we don't spend a fortune on gas. And the routing still is weird and terrible. And we're gonna, but it's, you know, it was good to have that experience going into it, being like, oh, like, this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to be prepared for, and this is like the kind of money we have to have set aside, A, B, C, D. So
yeah, no, I figured it would definitely help. It's kind of the same thing with anything, really, like doing one thing once and then doing it the second time and learning from that first experience and doing it better the second time. So is there any are there any spots that y'all are going back to that you've been before that you're kind of excited to go?
I'm really excited to play New Jersey again, because I like we threw New Jersey together. Like, well, we didn't even throw it together. Like, we got thrown on something super last second when we were just like taking shots in the dark for like a show to play in New Jersey on that date. And it was amazing. It was it was a Saturday in New Brunswick, and tons of like young people came out who were like evidently not like cool guy young people, and like just lots of very like genuine passion for hardcore. And we're going back to the same city we played, actually. So cool. I'm hoping lots of those like same people who came will like come back to see us, fingers crossed. But I think New Jersey for sure like is the first place that pops to mind. But Really the show we have for Boston, which is like the first day of tour, is Adrian Pummel, our drummer Max's other band Montclair, and then the tour package. And that's just like,
right.
I couldn't think of like a better show to play than that. So
yeah, it's a pretty good show lineup.
I'm unbelievably stoked for that one. But but like, I know that one's going to be amazing. You know what I mean? There's very little doubt in my mind that one's going to be awesome. But like New Jersey, I'm like excited for, you know, I'm excited to see how it turns out. So
yeah, for, I mean, this tour is going to be supporting Sane Minds End. So I think we can chat about that a little bit more. It feels, we were just talking about this before, but it's so odd that it's finally here because it's been in the works for like almost a year now. I think y'all finished wrapping up recording like in January or February, maybe.
I think February.
Okay,
You're right though, because that whole time of year is a blur to me always. I'm during the time of year where I'm just like full steam ahead, like don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, like, but I think it was February.
Yeah. Well, because I remember we already started talking about it like after the demo came out, that you're already writing and like ready to record, you know. So yeah, that's why I have it in my mind. Like we've been talking about this like last November, like early December.
I think we wrote Illusion, the first track off of Sane Minds End, in like September or even like August or something. So it's been a long time coming for it, but I'm very, very, very excited. And like playing most of those songs at the OSC show, I was like, oh, I do still like these songs. Because you know, obviously you get like tired of something the longer that you sit on it. But like I've like within the last like couple of weeks, I've had this like rejuvenation and like passion for it, because I was like, they do represent like a period in time, but it's like very similar to like we wrote the songs in winter. It's winter again. It feels right again. So they're resonating with me more even now. So I hope they'll resonate with people when they come out. So
are there any like general themes or maybe like influences that you would like people to kind of hear, you know, when it comes out on Friday?
That's a difficult question, because like, obviously from like a totally vapid standpoint, like I don't want people to hear like what we're influenced by. I want them to hear like Broken Vow. It's I don't know. I think the goal of creating a band is like take influences and then like meld them into something that's distinctly yours. So it's like, I think at this point in Broken Vow and with these songs, we've kind of got like a very good idea of like what makes us and like where to draw from, but then also what to do with that influence once we take it from somebody, and like how to like mold it and make it into like our own final product. So like I don't necessarily want someone to listen to and be like, oh, this is like Earth Crisis. You know what I mean?
No, I guess like more so from the standpoint of like lyrics and like what you all are like, you know, because I know we spoke about this like early on with the lyrics on these songs, not only these songs, but the demo, like they definitely like stand out, you know, from the, you know, any like general hardcore band. They're a little bit more specific. I know like especially on the demo, it was very much like had like an anti-fascist like message, like anti-racist, you know, and themes and important topics like that.
I try to like make what I write very topical but very broad at the same time, where it's like I don't want someone to only be able to connect with the sentiment if they like align entirely with my views and like the tiny intricacies of how I view the world. But like, I think very generally it's this very like generational rage at the way the world is done. And like has been set up. And whether you talk about that in terms of like institutions of racism, institutions of environmental destruction, institutions of A, B, C, D, awful thing. But, you know, I don't need to go off and list every awful social phenomenon, but like, just for example, there's like the song, like Poison Peddling. I wrote that just in a stream of consciousness when I was like, I talked to somebody who I care very much about, and they were kind of relaying like their experiences with like addiction related to the pharmaceutical industry. And I was like, wow, that's so intensely unfair. And it makes me so angry that like and it's kind of my avenue to like express that like intense, like unbalanced anger at the world like I've been born into. And but I also try to keep it very much like it's not about me. You know, I'm not singing about myself, the injustice that like I've gone through. Like I'm singing about the injustice that's like inherent in the world that I live in. Because obviously there's a number of factors with like me as Tommy Harte that are apparent right away that like, oh, you're not the target of A, B, C, D, like of those institutions. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But it's more of a tangible feeling of generational like unrest and distrust and anger and rage at these systems that are becoming like ever more apparent to the people, to the people like my age. And the emotional reaction to that. So
I'm assuming that's kind of where the title of the EP kind of comes from, like dealing with all of that and kind of going a little mad with
it's like
everything.
I don't know. And it's such like a tired sentiment to be like, the world's gone crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's obviously like a very like contrived effort to put in place these things that are worth being angry about and are worth being upset about and are worth having like mental turmoil over, as much as it sucks. But it's this like, it's like the sanity of insanity. You know what I mean? Like how like people who value these these like facetious things over material, not material, but like more real, like personal and like human things, that's an insane way to see the world. But they approach like putting their plans into action in a very, very sane way. So it's like the minds are insane, but the methods are all too sane. So
and for the album art, I feel like it looks pretty distinct. It's like familiar but different at the same time. Familiar as in like this is kind of like a typeface that you would have seen on a 90s hardcore band, but distinct as in you don't really see this on streaming right now, when you pull up an album art. But I wanted to ask about like maybe the inspiration or like the initial discussions with Kyle Nealon, who designed the artwork. Like were y'all pulling from any other types of media or anything, or did you kind of just hand over the reins to him and see what happened?
We literally sent him the tracks and the lyrics, and we're like, go. And it was very much like the same reaction that you have when we got back the artwork. We were like, whoa, like it wasn't what any of us were expecting. But I think that was like a very good thing, because like, I don't know, I think if we'd been too set on like a more like traditional safe kind of thing, like we wouldn't have gotten something as special as we did with the album art. And I really, really like it. And I think it took us a second to be like, oh no, this is good. Because we were very much like, wow, this is like different and like this is crazy. And like I've never seen anything like this. Like this isn't what I expected. But I think those are like good thing that's good energy to like put out there as a band, to be like, oh yeah, we're not gonna like put the cover that you think we're gonna put on this record, like, and we're gonna put something that's like really cool in its own respect. And I think giving ourselves the freedom to like even though, like I said, we just handed the reins over to Kyle and he was like, here, do you like this, is like very much like we want to set ourselves up to be a band that can continue to like take those risks and take those kind of like diversions from like we're not just going to have like the cover be like, oh, it's a black and white shot of one of us jumping with our instrument on, you know what I mean? So the cover art is definitely like one of my favorite things about the record. And I like when Illusion came out, I was like almost more stoked that like the album art had come out. I was like, Illusion's awesome, and also the album artwork is so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kyle crushed it on that one. I'm really stoked we had him do it. So
yeah, I'm excited for when the vinyl finally arrives and we can see it like physically and the whole layout and everything.
That's gonna be such a huge trip for me. So
yeah. But yeah, you recorded with Paul Kamner, who also did the demo in Connecticut. But how was it like the second time around versus like the previous recording? Was it like pretty similar, or do y'all feel like y'all were maybe better players at that point, or well, I guess compare and contrast the two?
I think we were like much better acclimated to the like reality of recording with a hardcore band, because I don't know, I think when we were coming in with the demo, we were like, we have these songs and can you record them? But whereas with this, we were like, oh, like let's record them this way, and like we had a lot more foresight going into it, whereas like a lot of like the cool, like more unique things that happen on the demo are like very much like happy accidents. It's like all the really like cool kind of like sound moments that only really exist on the record, and it's like can't really be replicated too well live, or like very much like deliberate, and like, oh, we want the bridge of Illusion to just be like a million guitars, and then like through the noise like emerges this like harmonic progression, you know what I mean? And it's I think the demo was just literally us playing the songs, and this was us more thinking, what's the final recorded product going to sound like?
Right.
And obviously like we'll never be like fully actualized in what we hear in our head, but it's like an exercise in like, oh, like that's something really close to what I saw in my head. And that's such a rewarding process for sure.
Yeah. How many days were y'all over there in the studio?
I think we did it in 2 days. I think we did it for a weekend. So the same amount of time as the demo, but for the demo, we basically recorded everything in a day, and then I just had to finish up a song on vocals the second day. But it's like we used 2 full days of doing stuff, and it was very much like a long haul experience, because all of us were in school and like working and stuff. We had a weekend booked out, and we were like, we got to do it. So
yeah, and I think at least the songs that are out right now, it's pretty apparent that there's like a more of a metal influence on the songs, kind of advancing the sound from the demo on the new songs. But what with that metal influence, I think you're going to continue in that direction, and like how much do you like want to pull from metal into Broken Vow? Because I know yourself, like you're a pretty big like metalhead. Yeah. Like I would
call myself a metalhead. I've grown to love that term because of the kind of knee-jerk reaction that it gets. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a metalhead. And you're like,
yeah, I think it's cool. It's a cool name.
No. But yeah, I know Harrison's really inspired, because Harrison writes the lion's share of the guitar riffs. And but I mean, lately on the new stuff that we're writing, him and I, it's been more of like a one-to-one collaboration with guitar and structure and songwriting and everything like that. And I know he's mentioned in the past that he loves the Machine Head record Davidian, and he pulls a ton of like riff inspiration from that, and Fear Factory. And I don't know, it's very hard for me to draw some of like the metal band influence that I want into Broken Vow, just because like we're a hardcore band, and if I try to put like a Meshuggah riff into it, it's just going to be weird, and no one's going to like it, and I'm not going to like it either.
Yeah.
But it's very much saying like, what little like tastes of metal can I put into this? And I think more of the time it's like drawing from other like metallic hardcore acts. Like I know Repentance has been a huge band for us while we've been writing recently. And I don't know, we kind of want to like keep trying to write these like ominous parts, like the beginning of Poison Pedaling. I love it so much because it's like, it's like foreboding in a sense, where, and I want to explore that more with Broken Vow. The kind of kind of ominous, creepy, crawly kind of riff. So
Yeah.
But safe to say there will be there's more metallic Broken Vow in the future. So
no, yeah, I think the sounds like been done pretty well, especially like more recently. Obviously I think Power Trip really kicked that door open for hardcore for, a lot of bands. It inspired a lot of bands to kind of start trying that sound.
I bought
hardcore.
Decimation on vinyl today. So like safe to say Power Trip, huge band for all of us. So
So it sounds great, and I'm excited to see where you all take this next. I know you already started writing songs, so off
the record, I have some things I have to send you actually. So.
But yeah, I'm excited for everyone to hear the full EP.
Me too.
Do you are there any like other like particular songs that you are also excited about besides like the whole EP? Like, is there like one song that stands out other than the single that's out now?
I'd say like after playing it at the OSC show,
right.
Our title track "Broken Vow" is like, it got this crazy reception that I wasn't expecting it to get, and I was like, yeah, like let's like try playing a new song because like we're gonna be playing it for all these people, and it's gonna be a good chance like promote the record. But like I didn't expect it to like pop off quite as much as it did, and it like made me listen to the song with fresh ears and be like, oh, this is like very moshable in a way that I forgot that it was. So I'd say I'm most stoked for people to like hear that and be able to like have that in their playlists and have that like on repeat and stuff like that. So I'm for right like at this very moment, it's Broken Vow. So
and you also mentioned you're starting another band. What is that? How is that going? Like what how's that sounding?
It's like tough guy hardcore by guys who are not tough. So it's the guitar. So Harrison, Evan, and I are all in Broken Vow, and we're also all in this new band called Ultimatum, and I'm playing bass in it. And it's very much like Evan's like passion project. It's like his baby that he's like been working on forever. And I'm just like that. I'm very much just like along for the ride playing bass with it, but it's like lots of chugga for sure. Lots of, like the same riff but slower. So I like it a lot, and it's gonna be a lot of fun playing. It's a straight edge band. We're all vegan straight edge, but like we're just gonna be a straight edge band. So
Are y'all and y'all playing the release show, right?
We're playing the release show, we're opening up the release show.
Nice. That should be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm so excited for the release show. I wasn't letting myself be excited for it because I was worrying about OSC, and like especially once I got like the call like, yo, like you need like Magnitude needs you to fill in like all these other fill-ins. And obviously I was like stressing about that show a lot just because like I had to like, learn songs, brush up on songs, like get stuff together for Broken Vow, like run around, do this and that, drive 5 hours.
It's a lot of work.
And now that like the dust is settling from that, I'm like, oh, we booked this crazy show that I get to play in a week, and that's so awesome. You know what I mean? It's really dope. Yeah, that's really cool. That lineup is really great too. So it's gonna be super fun, I'm sure. We were so stoked how many like I remember we curated that so much. So it was like, oh, this is like a homie show, but it's like the perfect like balance homie show where it's not like, here are all my friends who also play in like 90s metallic hardcore bands. So but besides that new band, what other like are you working on any other creative aspects in your life? Besides, it doesn't have to be music, but anything else. Yeah, I mean, music's just like where I'm at right now. So like I'm taking a extended leave from school so that I can just like tour as much as I want and do all these things. And I'm super booked for next year already. And I'm just really stoked to like put my back into it 100%. And there's one band that I've been like slightly teasing for a very long time. That's like very much like my baby and my passion project. I'll leave it at, it's like it's a vegan straight edge band. and it's very heavily influenced by like mid 2000s melodic metalcore. So like it's like if like Trivium or like All That Remains was a vegan straight edge band. So nice. I'm and it's with a ton of people who I love very much. So I'm very, very stoked to put that one out there whenever it comes out. So yeah. But that's apart from that, I think pretty much everything that I'm working on is like out there or like very soon to be out there. So
you got a busy like half of the year already coming up. So
dude, yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, I've got like in the first like 3 months of 2022, I've got like 3 weeks where I'm not on tour. Yeah, which is nuts. Yeah, and I'm like, I couldn't possibly be more excited for it. So
yeah, super exciting. Yeah, but yeah, to kind of wrap up, I always like to ask like, what have you been listening to, and what should people be checking out? It doesn't have to be only music as far as checking out, but like any movies, books, whatever, art.
I've been listening to a lot of music lately. Like that's been my like go-to art consumption for sure. But I've just for some reason just now gotten into Poison the Well. I think I don't need to tell anybody how good that band is, but like it's like crazy that I wasn't into them until now. Adrian, Sense My Beloved, Wreckage, Pummel, all the bands that I never shut up about, who are my friends and I think make amazing music. There's so many good bands coming from my part of the United States right now, and it makes me so very happy that like I can be on the ground with that in some small way. So listen to every band that's on the Broken Vow record release show. Because those are all like my very like dear close friends, and I want all of them to win very hard. So just listen to my friends' bands.
I was trying to like think of other things from my end to check out. The first thing that comes to mind is the new Method of Doubt LP that just dropped today.
I haven't listened to it yet. Is it good?
Yeah, super good.
Then I'm gonna listen to like as soon as I get off the phone.
So if you're listening to this, go listen to that.
Cool. Comprehensive review in your text messages in like half an hour.
No, I definitely think it's like it climbed its way to like my top records of the year. So like after listening to it today. So yeah, listen to that. Listen to Sane Minds End. When you're hearing this, it should be out the next day. So hopefully it comes out Thursday, and Sane Minds End will be out Friday or at midnight. Sane Minds End tomorrow. So listen to that. We still have vinyl up for pre-order. We have shirts. Broken Vow is going on tour. They'll have merch there. You're gonna be pretty busy, but it's gonna be a very exciting time especially with new music like fresh out.
Yeah, it's gearing up to be like a pretty crazy like 2 or 3 months. So
yeah,
very, very, very excited. So
yeah, is there anything else you want to shout out or plug?
Nothing that I haven't already shouted out or plugged except for this podcast. So
just all your friends.
Yeah, all my friends, veganism. That's about it.
This is
thanks for having me on and everything. I was really looking forward to this, and it didn't disappoint at all. So
yeah, definitely, it was great getting to chat with you. It's always nice seeing your face on FaceTime.
On Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom. But thank you all for listening. This is Sunday Conversations. Again, Sane Minds End is out on Friday, December 3rd. So go listen to that and catch Broken Vow on tour in January. But yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Nothing but a broken